Hi, I'm Avalon Starlight, and you are listening to the Rebel Unicorns podcast. This season, I'm super stoked because we are talking about something very near and dear to my heart, chakras, and how they can completely transform your life and your business. Listen each week as I share my own chakra experiences, as well as introducing you to incredible guests with their own chakra stories. Are you ready? Let's get our rebel on. All right, Rebel Unicorns, you are in for a treat. I know I say this at every chakra interview that I do, but in particularly, we got somebody new in the crew this week. We've got our first male identified guest, which is huge. It's a big deal. And not only that, but his capacity to tap you in and tune you up to the quantum field and be able to maximize your results in the way that you have never experienced it before. I mean, this guest is like, how would I say this? Taking yourself and going through a time warp of creation. Whatever you're desiring right now, you want to have it faster, quicker, and with more ease. Then you need today's guest in your corner. Please welcome Neal Phalora to the Rebel Unicorns podcast. Hey, Neal.
Hey, thank you. What a very cosmically abundant introduction. Thank you.
I think the introductions are more fun for me than anything else.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Because I get to because I know you guys, I get to speak to truly what I feel is your capacity of service amplified by what I want it to be for you. So, I get to be that, do that, and have that because I'm the host, which is super fun.
Awesome.
So having everybody just hear my version of who you are, why don't you take a second and kind of let people know, who Neal Phalora is and what he does in this world?
Yeah, absolutely glad to do that. So my journey really begins where I'm very empathic and very energy-seeking child growing up in a household that was definitely challenging, very challenging mentally and physically, and not being happy with the relationships that I see in my life. So I'm here as an 11-year-old kid sneaking off articles, reading about relationships at a young age. And I find throughout the length of my life that I'm attracting a lot of people who are seeking counsel. And while my training, even from my father, a lot was about thinking about the human mind and our behavior patterns. It was a lot of academics. And so when I got out into the world, my job and my edict, I believe, from source is to live this and to be transparent and reflective of what this process really looks like, and to be a disruptor and an adult mythbuster, to be a conduit of love from source, to be this quantum hacker and move this knowledge out into a space where I help high achievers really take their most important relationships and turning it into their most rewarding relationships. And of course, the most important relationship we have, which is directly reflective of how we have relationships with everyone else, is the relationship with self. And so in my own journey, that relationship with self got very distorted because we focus externally as we're born into this world, and then trauma and other things come into play. And the trauma that I experienced in my life, I stored, like most of us, somatically, but it just happened to manifest into physical symptoms that put me chronically in bed 80-90% of the time over a 6-year period. So much so that I came to the end of my block and I didn't even know where I was. I didn't know where I was going. I thought I was going into early on-stage dementia. And so that led me from being this coach. Even in my biz dev days, I coached all my clients into different careers, relationships. But now having the kind of wife that gave me the space to heal, I had to take it to the next level. And I started to learn about how people are using their brain to rewire their life. But where the brain warrior came about, which is sort of my brand, is that we're talking about rewiring at all levels of the many different minds in the body, which would not be just the brain, but then where we traditionally find each of the chakra centers, and using that to not only help you with business, with life, with relationships, but for me, it was a very important physical journey where I shed 100 some symptoms and lost 95 pounds and transformed my life.
Just that.
Just that.
Yeah, just something small.
Very small.
So I know we were chatting before kind of coming online here, Neal, and I was excited when you did the Rebel Unicorn House. And can you share what your Rebel Unicorn House is for all the
Yes,
listeners?
I'm a cosmic unicorn.
Which I think is amazing after listening to how you define and describe yourself in that experience, right? Like quantum hacker, like all these kinds of things, and helping build relationship to self, right? Which is what cosmics are all about. We're here about really forging that relationship with the people that we're working to and with. So I would love, do you remember where you were at when you and I began conversations about the Chakra Business Academy? Do you remember the reason why you wanted to lean into doing that work?
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember it like it was yesterday. And for anybody who's listening to those podcasts, this is not scripted in any way. And it is to this day one of those, you have some moments that really stick out in your mind. And this moment stuck out in my mind because Tamara and I, we had some initial conversations and we were really good. And she was like, well, why don't I just give you a chakra reading? And I'm like, okay, I'm totally into this and let's do it. And you gave me a reading. And up until this point, I had done a tremendous amount of work. And after you gave me the reading, you were talking about, my throat chakra being out of line and and sacral and you started talking about all these issues and the things that you were talking about. I was very, very, I wanted to repel them, not because they weren't accurate, but because they were so accurate that I just didn't want to say that they were. And I was just like, F me. I don't know how you want your podcast to be, what rating of PG or G, but I was just like, F me. I'm like, this is, and I could not do the work after that because it was just like, okay, this is obviously pushed a button for you. And I talk to my clients, I'm like, if you have something that pushes your buttons, run towards it, not away. So yeah, that was a very, very a moment that lives in my memory very vividly.
I will remember too, because it was actually in Colorado when my name changed that you and I decided to work together. Like it was during that same period of time, because we were talking about when I received the download to be Avalon. It was at that same weekend because I sat in that hotel room when you said yes. And I remember significantly for me when I was reading your energy that there was like your third eye capacity, your ability to utilize your brain and to like connect to the divine and to utilize that as a pathway for creation was so strong. And I remember actually using the words, it was like we wanted to build a bridge from your third eye. Do you remember that? When I was like a bridge from your third eye to your heart so that you could then create the channel of that relationship through your body.
And I just want you to know that it's just recently, I've been working on that, but it's just recently I've had a major shift in this connection, like big. So
I know what this is going to be, and I can't wait to hear about. And I can't wait to hear the story because I haven't heard the story, everybody, and you're going to hear it with me in the podcast. But I want to actually, because you're here on Third Eye Week, I want to get your definition of kind of what the third eye is represented for you in your life and business.
yes. So for me, what it is as represented in my life, in my business, is that I've had many of these moments before I knew Dispenza or chakras, or I was in medical school. For those people, I've had a varied history. I got early acceptance into medical school. So I was in a place where all this stuff that I'm doing now, I would have, let's just put it mildly, poo-pooed it. All right. And that's putting it very mildly. But I had these moments of such deep connection and flow. I remember sitting out on my stoop in college and just feeling every blade of grass and feeling the wind and just having this moment of joyful connection to all the energy that is around me. And I've had that more than once. I've had this feeling of flow, like truly flow, like feeling almost like just being in my kitchen and sliding around and kicking doors closed. But it was more than just having fun. It was like a connected energy with, like, I knew what was about to happen next kind of feeling, right? And so I knew that there was tremendous knowledge there, and sitting in front of people with the third eye, I know things about them. I could pull things out of them, and it was disruptive in high school because people would kind of be repelled from that to some degree because it was too much for them. But I also just, people are like, how are you doing this? You know, my wife, when I met her, she was like, you're the most wickedly intuitive person I've ever met. And that was all well and good for my life, and my business. But the challenge came for me is that there was some things that I was trying to control because of the things that were going on into my body. And there were illusions that I had created, and I didn't have a way to circumvent those. I didn't really know how to get into those because I could see, I knew I could connect to the divine, but there was a misconnection somewhere of how could I get into these deep illusions that I've created in my body and in my life as it relates to my wellness. But really my wellness it's also my ability to channel this energy even more brightly. So it was an energy suck, right? As well. And I knew it was there. I just had no capacity to understand how to recover it for a long time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think it's such a powerful conversation when you say, you know, because your brain and your capacity to connect is your superpower, but oftentimes we do have the shadows to what is our greatest gift. And there, the same capacity that you could tune in and be in flow and be in this space of knowing and intuition, like on the opposite side of that coin is the creation of the illusion of that which isn't there, right? And that they, in the law of polarity, simultaneously exist at the same time. And it's like, where are we looking? Where are we focusing on? And how do I redirect and bring myself back to, you know, this space of alignment and seeing with clear vision on what my capabilities and what I can do is.
And that's so great. And you know, one of the things that especially with the power in my third eye, I remember some of the things I do for clients is I do these really deep visualizations, but I help them get into the emotion and the energy. I help them pull energy into the energy centers of the bodies to have a spiritual experience in there. And I was so deep into one of these, I actually saw my body, as this is 6 months into my wellness journey, and I was still in the thick of it. I saw my body as a standing light wave, and I was listening to this song. It was "This Is My Fight" song by Rachel Platten, because music always elevated me a lot. And I saw myself in fighting the waves, and I came out of it just in a moment, and I blurted out. I made it all up. Like it was the first time I had acknowledged that all of this was meant, and I just broke down into tears, just completely broke down into tears, because I knew that was the truth, that, you know, that was open for me. And I also saw, like, you know, and I also could acknowledge, and I know this is a little bit out there, but it's like you talk about polarities, and so like at the wavelength of light, as you're in the 3D world, where the wavelength of light, as you go up the scale towards source, there's wavelengths that are faster than the speed of light. And so and at source, there's no difference between our thought and what happens. There's no difference between cause and effect, right? And as you drop down from source and you hit there, there's a polarity that exists, and they have almost like physicists have proof of this now. It's really fascinating stuff. But the thing that I had trouble with, Tamara, is that even though I understood it, is that there's so many points in our life where we take the polarity of what's happened and we try to look back up at source and go, well, why is this happening in my life right now? I want to take some small time scale of my life, and I want to be able to say my karma's off, or I'm projecting this, or I've been doing these things. But we really can't use that to look back up at source, because that's not the way it is. Source comes down and projects on us and gives us this hologram of who we are, right? So where I was really fucking up in all of this is that I kept trying to, as a 3D, struggling with my third eye to go, I need to somehow correct this this issue or this illusion in my life. Let me keep looking up and figure out what's wrong, when what I needed to do is go deeper into my third eye as that single point of consciousness, to create something new that was equally as an illusion, but a different illusion than you are. So that's what I say to people is that we all are in the matrix, but your goal is, can you be big enough to create a new illusion rather than be the reaction within it?
Right. And like people are listening are like, whoa, they went like really intense and deep on this one. Yeah, we did. We've gone there, everybody. It's so true. And I think it's like, because I want to bring it even back a little bit, because I agree everything with what you're saying. And I think that the first phase of the full, because to me, it's an embodiment, right? Like it still is an embodiment. You can't just be one-dimensional in one form, right? So like there's still the level of being able to receive the download from source creator and embody it through, because we had talked about the connection from third eye to heart, and I know that you are a big proponent of Joe Dispenza, which we're going to get into, but I want to kind of make note of the fact that you had that vision, you had that moment where you had the realization that everything that was going on was made up in your body, yet you were still surviving kind of in this like realm of non-connection to your physical vessel or your physical space, right? And it wasn't immediate. It's not like, because this is what I want people to know, is you didn't wake up that day and sit and blurt out loud, I made it all up. And the next day you were, up out of bed and everything was dandy. But there was still like a process of, because even when we met, you still hadn't quite pulled yourself into your body. I mean, the body, and I say this when I'm working with clients who have illness or they're going through a lot in their body, we tend to choose to not be within it because it's easier. It's less painful. We don't have to like feel through the emotions or the reasons why we created the illusions or the stories behind what's happening in our body, because the answers are found within. And if we're riddled with something that is too big, we stay in that alternate state. We stay going up into source. We stay going into another realm. We stay searching outside of the body. And I think that, I would love to hear your story about like in Chakra, what it felt like to begin to bring your third eye down into your body. I have the airport story that I think is really significant, when I was at the airport and you and I connected. And then there's,
yeah.
And then take it from that moment into then where you've been in the last year since the Chakra Business Academy.
Yeah, so much goodness has happened since then. And still that weekend, I said that to you. I think we talked briefly, or it seemed like we were talking, but it doesn't matter. I know I relate to you, but that weekend of the Chakra Business Academy is still one of the most impactful weekends. It was completely different than I thought it would be. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who decides to do that, but it's totally 100% worth it. And I mean that as a serious plug, because it's like, it was game changing.
It was only a year ago. Like I just got the memories in my Facebook.
Right.
Oh my God.
It's only a year ago. Yeah. Even Brandy and I were reflecting, we're like, wow, we were in Niagara Falls in late 2019, it's not like, it's that long ago. But so, I know I went really deep, but to put it really a little more pragmatically on the chakra level, it's like why I couldn't really connect that over and over again is because I had practiced so much escapism from these emotions, so much leaving my body. And every time I left my body was like, hey, where are you? I mean, seriously, what the, like, we're here and you said you're not going to leave and you left again, right? So there's that issue of being able to trust yourself. There's that issue of leaving the body. And then what I didn't really understand at that time is that to get my third eye to really integrate, I needed to place my awareness there. I needed to place my energy there. I needed to focus my awareness there. But because I had practiced so much fight or flight about getting out of this situation, which applies to a lot of people, because it doesn't have to be illness. It could be whatever you're just trying to get out of, your body image, your business, whatever, your marriage. But it's like, I kept trying to escape it. And there was the problem with integrating it. It was like, how could I come to peace with it? How could I understand the shadow side of it better? And how could I actually bring energy into my body instead of letting it dissipate all the time by escaping it? My body was so low energy, there wasn't energy enough to start connecting these two. And I began, as much as this might sound weird, I began to as I started to understand this concept, I really started to feel it. Like I felt like, I'm like, whoa, I am low energy. Because I always think back, I'm like, I'm this guy that would wake up Saturday morning and I have like a third of a Robin Williams set, just like off the top of my head, just saying nonsense stuff. Brandy would talk about like these crazy rants and funny voices and just how I weave ideas together, because I had so much energy within my body, and I was always the humorous guy and the guy making people laugh. And I'm like, none of that is there. And I'm like, these are all signs that I have an energy drain in my body, and it's huge. And you can't reconnect a third eye and reintegrate it into your body, and also get back into your heart center when your energy is that low.
Do you remember the conversation at the airport?
I remember parts of it. I remember it being really impactful.
I was at the airport. Neal was at home, just so everybody was clear.
Yeah,
we were on a call.
Yeah, this is different from the thing that you said to me during the third weekend, which I still remember to this day as well. But remind me a little bit about the airport. I'm sure.
Well, it might be the same thing.
Okay.
What are you thinking about?
Well, I was just thinking about, like, you were talking about, Neal, you need to, because my whole thing is that, as a low energy person, I was having trouble finding my tribe, and feel like I was always outside struggling in. And my long-term issue, or story rather, is that I didn't get to play, and I'm sort of on the outside looking in. And you just looked at me and said, Neal, you need to stop trying to be a part of everybody else's circle, draw your own damn circle and invite people in. And I was just like, oh, okay, fuck me. All right, God, Spirit. Okay.
Yeah, I was sitting at the airport. That's the airport story.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So that is the same one. I knew that one was going to be, and that was significant because in that moment, I felt you drop in. It was like, there was a moment where your whole energy just went like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I didn't have my own circle because I wasn't inside my own body. How could I embody, pun intended, a circle to invite people in when my energy wasn't in my body? And that became the sort of tautology, the circular reasoning of this. It's like, wait, which one comes first? It's like, I don't know. It's like juggling with no balls here. So it's like, yeah.
Which was powerful because we still had many weeks together to put those two things together and make them. But this quest you've been on of connecting your third eye into your heart center took a really significant turn recently. And why
Yeah.
don't you share with us and share everyone what level you took it to? And I want to hear the experience that you had.
Yeah. So, this year, my two words, usually I choose a word, but I had two words this year and they're really related. It was surrender and unlearning. Surrender and unlearn, actually. And so I started practicing surrender even more and more. And Brainy and I we also, because we've been together for 13 years, we have an amazing relationship. We had some things to work on as well. And as that started to shift, I started to put more trust into myself, into our relationship, into what was to come. And I started having some significant upticks in business opportunities. And so here's the thing that is amazing about Source is like it's when you can turn on your third eye, and I've done a lot of meditations where I'm opening up this pineal gland and I'm sourcing things into it. It's like a transducer. There's all this information in the ether, but you'll get whatever you need from that information. It's a totality of all information. So through this, I made some very innocuous changes in some supplementation stuff that I'm doing. And it's not even worth mentioning because I don't believe that that's really what was the trigger point. The trigger point was my faith and surrender in this, and the anxiety, the crippling anxiety that I've had on and off that's plagued me, that I just can't seem to, why can't things shift or go away, has just changed. I mean, it's a level of freedom that it's like, what's so maddening sometimes about our journeys is that when something shifts, it's almost becomes like you become almost amnesic about how it was before. Right. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I used to sit with this anxiety so much all the time. It's so dialed down now. It feels.
Was that significantly amplified through your experience with Joe Dispenza?
I believe so. I believe so. I've been doing the meditations. Brandon and I've been doing the meditations. We've been doing until just the last week or two, just because her 5-year-old, we have 5-year-old twins. Our daughter has become very afraid of the dark, and we're not sleeping at night. So, but we were doing 2 hours of meditation a day. So.
When did you do his event? Because you did was it 2-day, 3-day?
It was a 7-day event.
Oh my gracious, it's amazing.
It was like nothing else transformative I've ever done in my life. It was unbelievable. We did waking meditations. We did non-localized co-healing. We used our heart to learn how to send out healing energy, and my body was vibrating and moving in a way that I can't even describe. We did mind movies where we put ourselves into a theta state with a kaleidoscope thing, and then we walked on the beach, and walking on the beach in trance, walking into your future. I've never felt more intentional in my whole life, and 1,000 people are doing this at the same time. So you have all this brain and heart coherence around you from all these people. I'll definitely go back.
It's on my bucket list. So like just hearing and experiencing your energy while you're talking about it, and those listening can totally perceive that experience through you just even sharing that. I mean, it sounds transcendental. It sounds like, you know what I mean? And even like on the level of because we talk about this, you and I do, like neurologically speaking, like cellularly speaking, like your frequency just in the remembrance of the event, like your energy calmed while you talked about the event that you were at, right? Like it, sometimes we think about experiences that we have, and when we think back to them, they activate certain pathways within our body that create, the anxiety or the overwhelm. Or when you talk about the Joe Dispenza 7 days, it's like your whole countenance changed.
And it does. And I've enjoyed so much everybody who reached out to me, because I got to relive it and re-imbibe it. And I want to go back to my notes and just see what I wrote, because there were places in there, Tamara, where my body almost was shaking, because the downloads that I was getting, or when he would make a point and it would just connect in something with my subconscious and liberate it in that moment. There was a meditation we did. We did a 4-hour meditation. I mean, it started out in the first 2 days and people were like, some of these people never meditated in their life. And by the 3rd day, people were glass statues. It was unbelievable. And by the 5th day, we had knocked out 4 hours of meditation. I woke up. He said, it's now 8:30. We start at 4. I looked at Brandy. I said, there is no way. I don't even know where I went. I have no idea of time, no idea. We just was totally somewhere else. And we got out of one of these meditations and this joy started coming across me. And I mean, Tamara, I giggled and kicked my legs like a 7-year-old kid. I was like the epicenter of laughter for like 500 or 600 people, because it would die down and I would start up again and everybody would start laughing, because I just had this sense of just unbridled joy. It was unbelievable. That is a whole separate podcast. I'll leave it at that. But
Well,
yeah.
I think that that's such a significant way to kind of ground in everything that we talked about too, because Joe Dispenza is about bringing the third eye to the heart and having the coherence of your vibrational frequency between these two particular, like he does. I loved, his book about chakras, obviously, because it validated that they were power centers and that they're there and they're scientific now. And it's proven that when there's, this coherence amongst our body, but it's really the connection from our third eye to our heart that is significant in the creation of that which we desire. And so, yeah, I think that that's a really kind of strong way to bring it full circle here.
It is full circle. I mean, there is nothing that happens by accident, and being in the Chakra Academy, going through that weekend was a complete setup to getting into the work, and understanding the shadow side and all of those things. It was huge, because people did get more out of it in general when you came prepared to do the work. I mean, there was lots of pre-work on his end to do, but I also had the Tamara pre-work, which I'm going to claim was as I do everything in my life, not by accident, that helped set me up to be in that energy, right? And to understand it, to really to a large extent, it's not even the understanding, it's the ability to let go and let the greater mind and the energy move into you, rather than trying to force something.
And Neal, for those who have just been listening to you and are just absolutely, and I know this is going to happen for people listening to you speak in this episode of the podcast, and be like, just like, wow, I need this man in my corner, in my life, in my experience, in my business, in my connection to not only myself, but the quantum field and what my full capabilities are. Where would they go to find you right now? If they were like,
absolutely. So my Instagram is The Brain Warrior. My email address is my first name, Neal, at thebrainwarrior.com, or you can just go to my website, which is thebrainwarrior.com. So
yeah. I love it. It's super simple. It keeps everything.
It's super simple. And for any of those that are listening, even if you just want to reach out and experience me, and you make your decision, but this year is my year. I have some crazy, stupid, amazing stuff going on this year for myself and my clients. And yeah, I planned to give at the highest level of any of my interactions. So yeah, come, let's play a little bit together, and then you figure out if this is your speed or not. That's all I can do, is invite people in gently.
I love it. I love it. And I love you. And I'm so grateful and honored to, be able to share your mastery here on the podcast and get to see you again and to connect again, because it's always such a joy. And I look forward to following along even further and witnessing your expansion and your growth and your truth emanating so clearly out of you, Neal. It's just so brilliant. It's so bright. Thank you.
Thank you, love. I am so glad to share this journey with you. Yes, for sure. For sure.
All right. If you're listening and you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you tag both Neal and I on Instagram. Let us know, share the message, get it out, and we look forward to connecting soon. Wow, that episode was mind-blowing. I hope you had as many ahas listening to it as I had recording it. I would love to see the Rebel Unicorns podcast spread far and wide across the globe, across the universe. So if you want to share it on your social media with something that you found impactful, leave a review, send it to a friend. It would be so deeply appreciated. Also, a little side note, I did recently change my name. I downloaded a year and a half ago that my name was Avalon Starlight. It was previously my birth name was Tamara Arnold. And if you're interested in learning what your Rebel Unicorn house is, oh yeah, there's a quiz for that. Think Harry Potter, except you're sorted into how you are impacting the world with your Stardust and what energy you're here to shift and change. You can find out your Rebel Unicorn house at www.tamaraarnold.ca/quiz. Let me know, tag me in social media, send the quiz out, and join the Rebel Unicorns Facebook group to be in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs who understand that when you shift your energy, you transform your business.